When divorce papers are filed, the pit of your stomach drops. It feels like all of the energy has been sucked out of the room and that your last chance of saving the relationship that you held so dear just got signed away. But what if I told you that it doesn't have to be the end? 10% of filed divorces don't get finalized, and 10% of couples who divorce get remarried. So what does this 20% of people do differently? The key lies in learning what pitfalls to avoid and how to navigate them. So in this video, I'm going to break down why divorce doesn't have to be the end and what you can do to turn it around like the top 20%. So let's break down some of the common panic responses. Oftentimes when divorce happens, I get it. It is tough. It can feel like the world has just ended. But this can also create some major reactions within ourselves. The fear of losing our partner can sometimes bring out the worst in us. It can lead to some panicked, controlling reactions that actually push our partner further away and make the divorce being finalized even more likely. The second mistake that people make is when they are served divorce papers is that they see their partner's reactions and they don't know how to handle them. So once divorce papers are filed, our partners can suddenly get this sense of freedom and they can start to finally get all the things off their chest that they never felt comfortable saying. And this is because what's known as emotional safety has been broken within the relationship. And finally, they don't have to think about that anymore and they can finally get all the things off their chest. So what sometimes happens with divorce is that once the papers have been drawn up, your partner feels a sense of freedom and finally gets all of the negative things that they've been holding in off their chest. And they can feel like suddenly you've got a wave of negativity headed your way. And this can feel scary. And this can stir some really negative, toxic reactions within ourselves and cause us to react in a negative way. So the biggest mistake that you can make during this time is to panic and try to control the situation. This situation has been building up for a while, and it's only now that you're seeing the consequences of it. So remember that statistic, about 20% of couples either don't finalize their divorce or end up remarrying after divorce. That is a significant number. So what sets the 20% of couples that turn their relationship around apart? What did they do differently that allows them to navigate the treacherous waters of divorce and come out stronger on the other side? Well, the answer lies in their approach to the crisis. These couples don't just weather the storm, they use it as a catalyst for growth. So now that we've identified a couple of common mistakes, let's explore a little bit how to shift our mindset and view divorce as a catalyst for positive change. Now, this may not seem like this is a normal reaction. A lot of people will see divorce as a negative thing. After all, it is the end of an era in your relationship. But shifting your perspective can transform a crisis into an opportunity if you look at it in the right way. Because ultimately, if you've been served divorce papers, then your partner is finally making a decision to start being assertive for their own needs. And maybe they haven't felt comfortable in the past. So yes, seeing divorce papers may not feel good in the moment, but actually, this is a perfect opportunity for you to finally find out what your partner has been feeling and what your partner has been holding in for a long time, and take the steps to start changing the direction of the relationship. And this is something that I talk about with my members before. I've had members that have been served divorce papers. And I say to them, right now, you have an opportunity. You can either do some things in the short term to try to save this idea of marriage, or you can try to save your relationship. And that means letting go of the label of marriage right now and focusing on what is best for the relationship. And this is a really crucial point because marriage is simply a label. It's a legal label, but it is a label nonetheless. When you have two options of short-term quick fix to try to save this idea of a marriage, or you can look at it long-term and say, what can I do to save this relationship? Because the marriage right now is on the way out. However, I can take steps day in, day out over a long period of time in order to save the relationship. And actually, 2 of my members have gone through the divorce process, but focused on the relationship rather than the marriage. And now what's happened is they've actually reconciled with their partner post-divorce and are taking their relationship into a much better direction because they focused on the relationship, not the marriage. And this is a key mindset shift, is to think long-term, not short-term. Thinking long-term is focusing on the relationship. Thinking short-term is focusing on the label of marriage. Now, of course, I understand that there's legal implications and financial implications, etc., that come along with marriage. But the crucial thing is that right now, if your partner has served you divorce papers, is that these discords have been building up for a long time. And either you've ignored them or your partner hasn't even felt safe in saying them to you. Either way, that is a problem. And nothing you can do in the next couple of weeks can change that. Right? So it's really important to be able to start looking long-term. And once you start focusing long-term, if you focus on the relationship rather than the marriage, then you're going to be in a much better position because you're going to make the right choices rather than trying to get a short-term solution to a problem that's much, much bigger than that. The challenge comes is that as you start to make efforts to improve yourself and the relationship, you're likely to encounter resistance from your partner. If your partner has made this decision and you started to change things, your partner is likely to say things like, this is too late, it's too little too late. Don't bother trying to change. I don't care. I don't want to see your changes. This is what's known as expectancy. And this can be really frustrating and disheartening. If you're putting in the work, so why isn't your partner responding positively? The truth is that expectancy is a bias that everyone has, is that when they've experienced something over and over and over again, even when the situation is different, they can still expect things to be the same. So as an example, if I raised my hand 5 times and said the word banana, if I did that over and over again for half an hour, after that half an hour is up, if I raise my hand, you would expect me to say the word banana. That is expectancy bias, because you've been through a pattern and you're expecting the same thing to happen. And if it doesn't happen, you will psychologically try to close that loop in the pattern, and you will come up with ways of convincing yourself that I did say it, that maybe I wrote it down, maybe I said it under my breath, maybe I'm going to say it in 5 minutes time, maybe I'm going to say it in 10 minutes time, but at some point I'm going to say it. That is expectancy bias in action. And this is a natural human phenomenon. So if divorce papers have been filed and you do start to change, you're likely to encounter expectancy bias. And this is normal because the truth is that real change takes time. So your partner is going to feel very skeptical at first, especially if they've seen inconsistent efforts in the past. They're likely to unconsciously resist your changes in order to maintain this familiar dynamic that they're used to. And it's really important to understand that this resistance to your changes, to the changes in the relationship, doesn't mean that your efforts are in vain. This is a normal part of the process. So what can you do when you encounter expectancy bias? How do we deal with this? How do we manage with it? And just before I move forward on to the next point, if you do want more videos on relationships, then feel free to subscribe to my channel for new videos every single week. The key is to focus on your personal growth regardless of your partner's initial reactions. When you start to build your self-efficacy and your confidence and your skills, trying to look back at where you may have messed up or proven in the relationship, this will still have a natural positive impact on the relationship, even though you may not see the results instantly. So this isn't about changing who you are at your core, but rather becoming the best version of yourself. So start to think about areas where you'd like to grow. Maybe it's improving your communication skills, managing your stress better, developing a new hobby. As you start to work on these aspects, you're likely to start finding that your self-esteem starts to improve. You start to become a little more emotionally calm. And these changes can start to make you more attractive to your partner and start to improve the overall dynamic of the relationship. But this is where a lot of people stumble. They tie their motivation for self-improvement to their partner's reactions or the outcome of the relationship. This is when you're tying your efforts to external factors. You're tying your efforts to something that you cannot control rather than something that you can control, which is yourself. And when you start to tie those efforts and this motivation to your partner, then you start to create a roller coaster of highs and lows. So one day your partner will seem receptive and you're on cloud 9, so you feel really motivated to change. But the next day your partner seems distant and you feel like giving up. So when you link your motivation to the outcomes of the relationship, this means that your efforts will be inconsistent. And what this shows to your partner is that your motivation isn't actually tied to growth. Your motivation is only tied to them. And as soon as they show no interest, your motivation sinks. And as a result of this, this actually increases expectancy bias, because this shows your partner that they were right to want to walk out the door, because you're not motivated to change. You're only motivated to change if they are with you, if the divorce is being torn up, right? So this is counterproductive to reconciling with your partner. So instead of this, try to anchor your motivation internally. Focus on improving for your sake rather than the immediate impact on your relationship. And doing this allows you to maintain a consistent effort over time, which is crucial for overcoming all of the initial expectancy bias that you're going to encounter. And this demonstrates genuine change. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, the divorce papers. So again, this is easy to see this moment as the end of the road, but we can kind of reframe this. What if, instead of seeing divorce papers as an endpoint, we view these as the beginning of a new journey? And this shift in perspective can be really powerful. This is what a couple of my members have done. When they've been faced with the possibility of losing the relationship, they had 2 choices, right? They can give up on the relationship, or they can use this as motivation for them to become the best version of themselves. And when they choose the latter, you open up a lot more possibilities, not just for your relationship, but for you and your personal growth as well. Remember, growth happens through times of discomfort and challenge. This crisis, as painful as it may feel right now, can actually be the catalyst for really positive changes that you might not have made otherwise. And this is an opportunity to reassess how you act, how you prioritize things, and how you can work on your weaknesses and strengthen your emotional resilience right now. So divorce is actually a perfect opportunity to be able to start making real changes in your life, and changes that will have an impact not only on yourself, but also your relationship in the future. Remember, filing for divorce doesn't have to be the end. It can actually be a turning point in a relationship. And a lot of members that I've worked with have done this and had the chance for real transformation. But it's up to you to seize that opportunity. And again, this is what I work with my ultra normal members. And if you do want to join us, then join me on my free relationship bootcamp, where you'll learn the same tools and steps that all of my successful members have used to start turning their relationship around. Click on the link in the description to grab your spot today. One of the most crucial elements in this process is making sure that you're building consistency. So when you're trying to overcome this expectancy bias and demonstrate genuine change, sporadic efforts just won't cut it. Your partner needs to see sustained, consistent effort over time. So this isn't about big, giant gestures, buying flowers, or, temporary fixes. This is about showing up day after day, making small but meaningful improvements in how you interact, how you engage with your partner, how you process your emotions, how you communicate. Think of the relationship as kind of like watering a plant. You can't just douse it once and expect it to thrive. It needs regular, consistent care. And the same goes for any relationship. Every positive interaction, every moment of patience, every time you choose to take the time to understand your partner over getting angry with them, these are all tiny drops of water nourishing your relationship back to health. But this is again where a lot of people can stumble. They can see this divorce as an opportunity for growth, and they focus only on their personal growth, and they forget about the actual building the relationship with their partner. They go to the opposite end of the spectrum and decide that, well, I just don't need to be in a relationship anymore. I'm just going to focus on me. And this is what we call the lone wolf illusion. This is where we falsely believe that we can just live in the world by ourselves and we don't need to interact with anyone. We're just going to be this independent, strong person and forget any relationship ever happening again. But this is not the way the world works. And this is a crucial moment in time where you can still come from a place of wanting to be in the relationship, but focusing on how you show up in the relationship. So yes, working on yourself is crucial, but it's equally important to create opportunities for connection with your partner. If you're consistently growing outside of the relationship in ways that aren't shared with your partner, it can actually reduce the feelings of closeness and connection. It can actually diminish the relationship. So as you start to experience expectancy bias, instead of seeing arguments with your partner as a threat to the relationship and rebuilding the relationship, try to view it as a chance to learn more about your partner's needs, your partner's perspectives. Now, a lot of people fall for this idea of it takes two to tango. So I understand why you'd be skeptical about this, but I've actually done a deep dive video, which I'll link to on the screen here. But it's important to understand that once you start to fall for the illusion that it takes two to tango, this is where your motivation starts to dip. And this is where you'll actually end up proving your partner correct, that thinking that you are never going to change. So this is why it's really crucial to understand. So I'll leave you with this deep dive video on turning your relationship around by yourself, and I'll see you over there.